My parents charged me $400 a month for rent while using my college fund to buy my sister a blazer. I stayed quiet at first. Then I packed my things and went straight to my grandpa with the truth. Imagine discovering your entire future, the one you slaved for, was systematically stolen from you by the very people who promised to protect it. That gut-wrenching betrayal? Yeah, that was my reality, right down to the last $5 bill I meticulously earned. It started like so many other nights. I counted the last $5, adding it carefully to the stack. $400 exactly. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I tucked the crisp bills into that envelope marked rent in my own neat handwriting. Another month, another payment just to live in my own childhood bedroom. Downstairs, laughter erupted, Mom's musical chuckle, Dad's booming roar. Then Lennox's voice, giddy and breathless, gushing about campus tours and dorm options. You should have seen the student center, Mom. It had this amazing atrium with. I pressed my lips together, trying to focus on sealing the envelope, but the tremor wouldn't stop. My small desk, the same one I'd had since 6th grade, was wedged between my narrow bed and the wall. The room felt smaller every month, shrinking with each rent payment, with each agonizing reminder that I was a tenant now, not a daughter. The theater department looked incredible. Lennox's voice drifted up the stairs. And the dorms had these big windows overlooking the quad. Dad said something I couldn't quite catch, his voice warm with pride. I tucked the envelope into my worn leather wallet and checked my phone. My shift at Sunflower Bakery started at 5 a.m. Alarm already set for 4:15. My legs were stiff from sitting cross-legged too long. My room was tidy out of necessity. There was no space for clutter. A single bed with a faded quilt, the small desk, a 3-drawer dresser, a bookshelf with my textbooks, meticulously arranged. No posters anymore, no trinkets, nothing unnecessary. Then Mom's voice, brimming with excitement, cut through the quiet. We need to talk about your allowance while you're at school, honey. Allowance? I froze. I think $200 a month should cover your personal expenses, Dad added. Textbooks we'll handle separately, of course. My throat tightened. Something hot and sharp pressed behind my eyes. And Rick down at the dealership said he can hold that blazer for another 2 weeks, Dad continued, his voice thick with satisfaction. Perfect timing for your graduation. Just the right SUV for a college freshman. Mom chimed in. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. We've been building this college fund since you were little. Nothing but the best for our girl. The college fund. Those 2 words hit me like a physical blow, a punch to the gut that stole my breath. I sank back onto my bed, the springs protesting beneath me. Why wasn't there a college fund? For me? Just 1 year ago, on my graduation day, I wore a borrowed dress from my cousin Melissa. Because Mom said buying one wasn't practical. The tight smiles during photos. The serious talk afterward at our kitchen table. Dad, straightening his tie, clearing his throat. Rhea, you're 18. Now, an adult. And adults pay their way. Mom nodded, her eyes not quite meeting mine. $400 rent. Starts next month. You cover everything else, your phone, your car insurance, your food. I blinked rapidly, dragging myself back to the present. The memory felt like a bruise I kept pressing, expecting it to hurt less each time. It never did. My alarm shrieked at 4:15. By 4:30, I was biking through the dark streets to the bakery. At noon, I raced to campus for classes until 4. Then freelance writing jobs until midnight, hunched over my laptop, eyes burning. My budgeting notebook lay open on my desk, columns of numbers, a puzzle I could never quite solve. Rent, $400. Phone, $60. Car insurance, $112. Textbooks this semester, $327. The equation never balanced. My designated shelf in the refrigerator stayed nearly empty. The handwritten label, Rhea's Food, felt like a cruel joke some weeks. I skipped lunch to afford gas, while downstairs, Lennox ordered pizza with her friends, leaving empty boxes on the counter. Tonight, after a failed literature assignment and a double shift that left my feet aching, I stood in front of my small desk and stared at that envelope marked rent. The tears I'd been holding back all day finally spilled over. My fingers reached for my phone, scrolling to Grandpa Everett's number. My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed glass, but I pressed the call button anyway. It rang 3 times before his warm, familiar voice answered. "Rhea? Sweetheart, it's late. Everything okay?" I opened my mouth to speak, to say I was fine, to apologize for calling at midnight. What came out instead was a broken whisper. "Grandpa, I can't do this anymore." My composure, the careful wall I'd built around myself for the past 12 months, it just crumbled entirely. My shoulders shook with silent sobs as I clutched the phone, tears falling onto the envelope below. "I'm so tired," I whispered, the admission breaking something loose inside me. "I'm so tired." I sank deeper into my narrow bed, the springs protesting beneath me. Words stuck in my throat. "I'm here," he said, his tone shifting from sleepy to alert. "Talk to me. I work 60 hours a week." The confession spilled out, quiet but steady. Bakery at dawn, classes all afternoon, freelance writing until midnight. And my voice caught. I still pay them for $100 rent to live in my childhood bedroom. The silence stretched between us, heavy with his unspoken concern. "Sometimes I skip lunch," I whispered, shame heating my face despite no one being there to witness it. "The shelf in the fridge with my name on it, it's almost always empty. I can't afford groceries and textbooks in the same week. Rhea Elizabeth." His voice hardened slightly, the rare use of my middle name signaling his distress. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I stared at the ceiling, following a hairline crack I'd memorized during countless sleepless nights. I thought it was normal, growing up, becoming responsible. The words tasted bitter. Meanwhile, Dad's buying Lennox a brand new blazer for graduation. A college present, he called it. And they've set up a college fund for her. My voice wavered. $200 monthly allowance while she's at school. Another silence, longer this time. When Grandpa spoke again, his voice carried an edge I'd rarely heard. "But what about the college money?" I frowned, confused. "What college money?" "The $42,000 we gave your parents last year." Each word fell like a stone. "For your education." The world just tilted. My fingers went numb around the phone as his words echoed in my head. $42,000. My education. What are you talking about? I barely recognized my own voice. Your grandmother and I withdrew it from our retirement account. The tremor in his voice betrayed his age, his controlled anger. We transferred it directly to your parents' joint account last June, 2 weeks before your high school graduation. My free hand pressed against my mouth, stifling a sound between a gasp and a sob. "They promised it was for your college tuition, your apartment, your books." He paused, breath ragged. "They showed us brochures from state universities, talked about how proud they were of you." The room spun around me. Lennox's SUV. The mysterious college fund they'd mentioned for her. The timing of their sudden demand for rent. "I have the bank withdrawal receipt," Grandpa continued, his voice steadying with resolve. "And the transfer confirmation with both their signatures. For Rhea's future," your father wrote on the form. For hours after we hung up, I sat motionless on my bed. The envelope marked rent mocked me from my desk. I stared at my hands in the dim light, calloused from kneading dough, nails cut short for practicality. Baker's hands. Working hands. Hands that had passed over thousands of dollars to the people who betrayed me. My laptop glowed blue in the darkness as I pulled up my bank account. The regular withdrawals stared back at me. $400 on the first of every month. Labeled rent. 12 payments. $4,800 total. Nearly $5,000, while they sat on $42,000 meant for me. My mind calculated. Unbidden, Lennox's new blazer? Approximately $34,000. Her monthly allowance, $200. The college fund. They mentioned downstairs. My money. My future. My sacrifice. The betrayal burned through my chest, settling into something harder and colder than I'd ever felt before. Not just the money, though that would be enough, but the calculated cruelty of it. Making me pay rent while holding my college fund hostage. Watching me work myself to exhaustion while planning my sister's carefree campus life. My phone lit up with a text message. Asterisk Grandpa, I'm coming to town tomorrow. First bus arrives at 10:15 a.m. Asterisk before I could respond, another message appeared. This wasn't yours to lose, and it's not theirs to take. My thumb hovered over the screen. Fear mingled with the anger coursing through me. Confronting them meant everything changes. The fragile pretense of family shattered beyond repair. But something else rose within me. Unfamiliar yet somehow right. A fierce sense of justice that straightened my shoulders and steadied my hands. I'll meet you at the house, I typed back. The plan formed between us in short, determined messages. Evidence, confrontation, consequences. For the first time in a year, I didn't set my alarm for the bakery. Tomorrow required a different kind of strength. The next day, Grandpa Everett stood on the porch, one hand resting on his worn leather briefcase. The autumn sun caught on his silver hair, casting a halo around his weathered face. His charcoal suit, the same one he'd worn to every important family occasion for 20 years, hung perfectly from his tall frame. I opened the door before he could even knock. You came. His eyes, so like mine, crinkled at the corners. I told you I would, didn't I? He enfolded me in a hug that smelled of aftershave and peppermint. For a moment, I let myself lean into his strength. The sound of footsteps broke us apart. Mom appeared in the foyer, her smile too bright, her floral blouse freshly pressed. Everett, what a wonderful surprise. She air-kissed his cheek, careful not to smudge her lipstick. Robert, look who's here. Dad emerged from his study, extending his hand. Good to see you, Everett. You should have called ahead. We'd have made plans. This isn't a social call. Grandpa's voice remained pleasant, but his grip on the briefcase tightened. Mom's smile didn't waver. Come in, come in. Lennox just got her SAT scores back. 98th percentile. Harvard's practically a guarantee now. Stanford's my first choice, Mom. Lennox bounced down the stairs in her cheerleading uniform, ponytail swinging. Hi, Grandpa. Hello, sweetheart. Grandpa nodded at her, then looked directly at me. I stood straighter, drawing strength from his steady gaze. Robert. Diana, we need to discuss something important. He walked past them into the dining room without waiting for permission. My parents exchanged a quick glance, confusion flickering between them. Mom gestured toward the kitchen. Lennox, honey, why don't you? She should hear this too, I said. My voice quieter than intended, but firm enough to stop Mom mid-sentence. We followed Grandpa to the dining table, the same oak surface where, a year ago, my parents laid out their expectations of rent and adulthood. Grandpa set his briefcase down with a soft thud and clicked open the brass latches. Dad sat at the head of the table, adjusting his collar. What's this? About Everett. I placed my latest pay stubs beside Grandpa's bank records, the evidence of our separate realities laid bare on the dining room table. While you bought Lennox a new SUV, the words tasted bitter on my tongue, while you set up her college fund. Dad's face reddened. You were supposed to be an adult, learning responsibility. Responsibility. Grandpa's voice rose. You stole her future and called it a lesson. Mom began to cry, quiet tears that smeared her mascara. We never meant. You meant exactly what you did, I interrupted, surprising myself. You decided I was worth less. The truth hung in the air between us, undeniable and ugly. Grandpa stood, his height suddenly imposing. Here's what happens now. You will repay every cent of Ria's money or you're both out of the will. Dad's face paled. Everett, be reasonable. I'm being perfectly reasonable. Grandpa placed his hand on my shoulder. And Ria, my home is yours for as long as you Need. No rent, no conditions. You can't just take her. Mom protested. Take her. Grandpa's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the room. She's 22 years old, Diana. You can't keep charging her to exist in your home while spending her college fund on her sister. A small sound drew our attention to the doorway. Lennox stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Is that true? She asked, looking at our parents. You spent Ria's money on my car? Dad stood abruptly. This is between the adults, Lennox. No, my voice surprised me again with its strength. This concerns her too. She deserves to know what her future is being built on. Lennox's eyes met mine across the room, wide, shocked, and suddenly older. For the first time in years, I saw my sister instead of my replacement. Pack your things, Ria, Grandpa said quietly. You don't have to. Spend another night here. Mom reached for my hand. Honey, we can work this out. I stepped back from her touch, feeling the distance between us like a physical thing, a gap that had been growing for years while I pretended not to notice. No, I said simply. I don't think we can. Dad slammed his palm against the table. This is ridiculous. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done. Grandpa's voice cut through the room like a blade. You've been stealing from your own daughter and calling it parenting. The silence that followed felt like the first honest moment this family had shared in years. The next day, the cardboard box sat open on my bed, half filled with the sparse collection I called possessions. My hands moved methodically, folding each shirt with precision, stacking each book by size. The room felt different, lighter somehow, as if the walls themselves anticipated my departure. I placed my old teddy bear on top, his worn fur catching the afternoon light. For a moment, I hesitated, then tucked him firmly into the corner of the box. 22 felt too old for stuffed animals, but Grandpa wouldn't judge. The note took 3 attempts. First draft, too angry. Second, too apologetic. Third, just right, I'm moving in with Grandpa, don't call me. 5 years of accumulated resentment distilled into 9 plain words on college-ruled paper. I left it centered on the stripped mattress, weighted down with my house key, the one I never needed to return because, technically, I'd been a paying tenant. Downstairs, the house remained quiet. Mom at her book club. Dad at the office. Lennox at cheer practice. The perfect window for a clean break. I slid open my sock drawer and removed the small jewelry box buried beneath practical cotton pairs. Inside gleamed my graduation gift from Grandpa, a silver pendant watch that belonged to Grandma. Too precious to wear daily. I'd saved it for special occasions. This qualified. The kitchen counter looked immaculate as always. Mom's domain, where she created elaborate meals for Dad and Lennox while my shelf in the refrigerator held yogurt cups and apples. I placed my key beside the fruit bowl metal, against polished granite. The sound felt final. No note here. No explanation beyond the simple absence of my presence. I carried the box to my car, the ancient Corolla, purchased with my own bakery wages. The passenger seat accepted my box without complaint. One trip. 22 years condensed to a single cardboard container. Something about that felt both pathetic and liberating. As I backed out of the driveway, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Some views aren't worth revisiting. The highway stretched before me, 30 minutes to Grandpa's house on the other side of town. Traffic moved steadily. Ordinary people living ordinary Tuesday afternoons with no idea that my life just split into before and after. Grandpa waited on his porch, rocking chair creaking a steady rhythm. His silver hair caught sunlight, his weathered hands resting on denim-covered knees. At 74, he stood straighter than men. 20 years younger, his carpenter's posture a testament to decades of honest work. There she is, he called, voice warm as fresh bread. He didn't rush toward me, didn't make a fuss, just waited while I parked and gathered my box. This all you bringing? He eyed the single container. Everything worth keeping? He nodded, understanding the weight of unspoken things. Come on in. Then, got your room ready. The house smelled of coffee and old books, the familiar scent of my childhood sanctuary, small but impeccably maintained, with handcrafted bookshelves lining every available wall. Where my parents' home showcased status, Grandpa's showcased stories. He led me down the short hallway to what had always been his study. The desk remained but had been pushed against the window. A twin bed with a blue quilt occupied the opposite wall. Simple, functional, mine. Figured you needed the desk for schoolwork. He shrugged, hands in pockets. Bathroom still where? You remember, kitchen's always open. Grandpa, my voice caught. None of that now. He patted my shoulder. Family takes care of family. Real family, that is. I placed my box on the bed, suddenly conscious of how little I owned. I can pay rent. I have savings now that. Absolutely not. His tone brooked no argument. You focus on finishing school. Store needs help anyway. 15 hours a week, we'll call it even. The bookstore. Everett's Books and Curiosities. The downtown cornerstone he'd run for 40 years. My childhood refuge of hidden corners and endless adventures. Deal. I extended my hand formally, and he shook it with a chuckle. Dinner's at 6. Nothing fancy. Get yourself settled. Left alone, I unpacked with deliberate care. Clothes in the small dresser. Books on the empty shelf. Above the desk. Laptop connected to the outlet. Each item placed with intention, marking territory. In a way I never could in my childhood room. The bed welcomed me when I finally sat. Springs. Accommodating rather than protesting. Through the window, sunlight filtered through oak leaves, casting dappled shadows on hardwood floors. No alarm set for 4:15 a.m. No rent envelope waiting to be filled. Sleep found me between one breath and the next, deeper and more complete than any I'd known in years. Morning arrived without the shriek of alarms. Birds outside the window. Coffee scent drifting from the kitchen. My phone showed 7 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, and a barrage of texts from Lennox, ranging from confused to furious. I left them all unanswered. 3 weeks later, Grandpa and I established routines with surprising ease. Breakfast together. Classes for me. Store hours for him. Dinner discussions about books and customers. Evenings of quiet companionship. Him with crosswords. Me with textbooks. The bookstore became my afternoon sanctuary. Dusty shelves and regular customers offering stability my life had lacked. Word filtered back. Through mutual acquaintances. Mom crying at church. Dad explaining my temporary breakdown to neighbors. The real news came from Lennox's friends who visited the bookstore. Lennox was told to get a part-time job. The SUV downgraded to a used sedan. College housing changed from private dorm to shared accommodation. The financial reality had finally hit home. Another week passed. Then 2. The calls tapered but never ceased entirely. Each missed connection built a wall between past and present, brick by digital brick. One Thursday afternoon brought unexpected confrontation. The bookstore bell jingled as I shelved new arrivals. I turned, customer smile ready, only to find Lennox standing in the history section. School backpack slung over one shoulder. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. You ruined everything. I continued shelving, hands steady despite my pounding heart. Hello to you too. Mom cries every night. Dad had to cancel his golf membership. My graduation party got downsized. She counted. Grievances on manicured fingers. Because of you. The accusation hung between us, bitter as unripe fruit. I placed the final book, a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, and faced my sister fully. Talked to Mom and Dad, I said, voice even. They stole from me. $40,000? That's crazy. They wouldn't. $42,000. Grandpa's retirement money, meant for my college. The numbers no longer hurt. To say, they took it, then charged me rent while working me to exhaustion. Her mouth opened. Closed, opened again. But the college fund? They said they saved for years. Ask them where that money came from, I straightened a row of classics. Ask them why I paid rent while you got in. Allowance. It's not my fault. Her voice rose, drawing attention from the elderly man browsing nearby. I never said it was. Something in my calm reply deflated her anger. She slumped against the bookshelf, suddenly looking younger than 17. Everything's different now, she whispered. They fight all the time. Mom said we might have to sell the house. I should feel vindication. Instead, a hollow ache filled my chest. That's between you and them. You have to come back. Fix this. No. The word emerged without hesitation. I don't. Her face crumpled, tears spilling over. So you're just abandoning me? Some sister. The accusation stung, but not enough to weaken my resolve. I'm a phone call away, Lennox. Always have been. But I won't live in that house again. She wiped her eyes angrily, mascara smudging across her cheek. They're telling everyone you had a nervous breakdown. A surprising laugh escaped me. Of course they are. I walked to the counter, found a business card, and wrote my number on the back. Here. This line stays open for you. Always. But Mom and Dad? They're blocked. She took the card, staring at it like an unfamiliar object. I don't understand any of this. You will, I returned to my shelving cart. Start by asking the right questions. After she left, I pulled out my phone and blocked my parents' numbers with 2 decisive taps. The action brought no joy, only quiet certainty. The line to Lennox remained open, a single bridge to my old life, maintained on my terms alone. That night, sleeping beneath Grandpa's roof, I dreamed of empty rooms and full bookshelves, of keys returned and doors finally locked from the outside. The morning sun slanted through the bookstore windows, casting golden rectangles across the hardwood floor. I arranged a display of mystery novels, my fingers lingering on the embossed cover of a first edition. For months at Grandpa's store, and already this space felt more like home than my childhood bedroom ever did. Special delivery. Grandpa called, pushing through the door with a cardboard tray balancing 2 coffee cups. His silver hair caught the light as he set the tray on the counter. 1 black coffee for me, 1 vanilla latte for the star employee. I accepted the cup with both hands, savoring the warmth. Thanks, Grandpa. How's that American literature paper coming along? Turned it in yesterday. Professor Jackson said my analysis of Steinbeck was remarkably insightful. The words still felt strange in my mouth. Praise without qualification, acknowledgement without strings. Not surprising, Grandpa tapped his temple. You've got the Everett brain, sharp as they come. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. That's the 3rd time this morning, Grandpa noted, eyebrows raised above his reading glasses. I pulled out the phone and glanced at the screen. Lennox. Again. You going to answer this time? The question hung between us as I stared at my sister's name. Weeks of silence since that day at the library, but also of her messages ranging from accusatory to pleading. This one simply read, "Can we talk? Please." Not now, I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. The new shipment needs processing. Grandpa didn't push. Instead, he handed me the store keys. I'm trusting you to close up tonight. I've got that doctor's appointment at 4. The weight of the keys felt significant in my palm, trust made tangible, not earned through exhaustion or paid for in $5 bills, but freely given. I'll be fine, I assured him, moving toward the storage room. I thought I might rearrange the classics section afterward, group them by time period instead of just alphabetical. Make it yours, Grandpa said with a nod. This place could use a young person's touch. By evening, I'd transformed the classics corner with wooden crates I found in storage, creating a step display that showcased leather-bound editions. My small potted fern sat atop the highest crate, adding a touch of green life to the aged pages below. My midterm grades arrived this afternoon. Without the crushing fatigue of 60-hour work weeks, my brain functioned again. Ideas flowed. Words came easily. Sleep actually restored. When my phone buzzed again at 7 p.m., I was balanced on a stepladder, arranging travel memoirs by continent. This time, I answered. Hello. Silence. Then a shaky inhale. Rhea? Lennox's voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I'm here. My tone remained neutral, neither welcoming nor dismissive. I didn't know. The words rushed out. About the money. About what they did. I swear, Rhea, I didn't know. I closed my eyes, one hand gripping the ladder rung. Okay, that's it? Just okay. What do you want me to say, Lennox? That I forgive you? That everything's fine now? No, she paused. Maybe just that you believe me. I stepped down from the ladder, moving to the window seat where afternoon readers often lingered. Outside, streetlights flickered on as dusk deepened. Can we meet somewhere? She asked into my silence. Not at home. Somewhere neutral. The request surprised me. Why? Because they've been lying to me too. My fingers tightened around the phone. About what? Everything. College. Money. You. Her voice cracked. We agreed to meet at Copper Cup, a coffee shop equidistant between Grandpa's store and our parents' house. The following afternoon, I arrived 15 minutes early, claiming a corner table with clear sightlines to both the entrance and exit. Old habits. Lennox walked in 5 minutes late, her usual confidence diminished. Her hair hung straight instead of styled, her clothes simple rather than trendy. She spotted me and hesitated before approaching. Thanks for coming, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I nodded once, waiting. After you left, everything changed. She stared into her coffee cup. Dad said I couldn't have the blazer anymore. Mom said my allowance would have to wait. Then last week, I overheard them arguing about money, about having to pay back Grandpa. And Mom said something about appearance money. That they'd spent it all keeping up appearances. Lennox looked up, her eyes rimmed red. Including my entire college fund. There never was one, Rhea. They lied to both of us. The revelation settled between us like a third presence at the table. They made me get a job at the mall, she continued. Dad said I need to understand the value of $1, like it's some big life lesson and not just punishment for getting caught. I finished. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. How did you do it? Work so much and still keep your grades up? I'm failing 2 classes already. The question lacked her usual competitive edge. For the first time, Lennox looked at me not as a rival, but as someone who survived something. She's only beginning to understand. One day at a time, I answered, surprising myself with the lack of bitterness in my voice. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but acknowledgement. A recognition of our shared wounds, differently inflicted. As we talked, my phone lit up with yet another call from our father. The 7th this week. I silenced it without looking. Just as the bookstore keys shifted in my pocket, a reminder of where I belong now and what I've survived to claim. I stood behind the counter at Everett's Books, watching sunlight stream through the newly installed skylights. 2 years had transformed the space, and me along with it. The dated carpeting had given way to polished hardwood. Vintage reading lamps cast warm pools of light onto comfortable chairs. The air smelled of paper, coffee, and possibility. Miss Everett, where would I find books on astronomy? A college freshman with anxious eyes approached the counter. Second aisle, blue section. I pointed toward the science corner. Are you taking Professor Whitman's intro course? Her eyes widened. How did you know? Thursday evening student readings. I reached under the counter for a flyer. I host them upstairs in the community room. 7 o'clock. Free coffee and good company. She took the flyer, smiling. I'll be there. After she walked away, I ran my fingers along the polished wood of the counter. Mine. Not just the business, the apartment upstairs too. Small but perfect. With windows overlooking Main Street and bookshelves lining every wall. No rent. Envelopes, no borrowed dresses, no empty refrigerator shelf with my name taped to it. The bell above the door chimed. Lennox walked in, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup. Working 20 hours weekly at the campus coffee shop had stripped away some of her polish, replacing it with something more substantial. "Hey," she approached cautiously, always tentative in this space. "I brought those marketing textbooks you wanted to look at." Our relationship remained a work in progress. She attended community college now, not the prestigious university our parents promised. The SUV was sold last year to help cover tuition. The allowance never materialized. "Thanks. How's the psychology paper coming?" I asked. "Finished it yesterday after my shift." Pride flickered across her face. "First A in the class." I nodded, genuinely pleased for her. "Good work." The phone rang and I checked the caller ID. "Mom." Again. I let it go to voicemail, like I'd done for months. Their desperate excuses grew tired somehow. They meant to tell me about Grandpa's money, how they planned to pay it back someday, how they never meant to hurt me. Lennox noticed, but said nothing. She understood now. Some trust, once broken, stays fractured. The bell chimed again. Mrs. Holloway, my former literature teacher, entered with a stack of book club selections. "Rhea, the store looks wonderful." She glanced around appreciatively. "I hardly recognize it." "Thank you. We've expanded the online operation too." She set her books on the counter. "I tell my students about you, the quiet girl who graduated with honors while working full-time." "I finished my business degree last month," I said, feeling a flush of pride. "How did you manage it all?" she asked. "So many young people give up when things get difficult." I glanced toward the back office where Grandpa sat reviewing inventory, his silver hair catching the light. "I learned what truly matters," I answered simply. Later, after closing, I wrote in my journal while seated at the window overlooking Main Street. The words flowed easily tonight. This life, this business, it was never theirs to take. The stairs creaked as Grandpa made his way up with our evening tea. This was our ritual, planning tomorrow, while the day's receipts settled. "Sign company called," he said, setting down my cup. "Installation tomorrow at 9. We moved to the front window, looking down at the storefront below. "The old Everett's book sign will come down in the morning." "Thank you for seeing me when they couldn't," I said quietly. Grandpa's weathered hand found mine. "The best investments are in people who show up." Tomorrow, the new sign goes up. Everett and Rhea's books. Mine. At last.